All right, everybody, this is Rabbi and Son, hot takes on news, pop culture, and religion, hosted by Rabbi Patrick and my son, Javon. Spiritual, irreverent, always fearless, produced by Darshan Yeshiva, and we have yet another cat in the background. Right here. This is Toes. Toes. I'm going to try to pick up with one arm, but that's usually not possible. All right, Toes, your presence is not requested. So, Javon, how's it going, man? Fine. You have two modes, if you haven't discovered yet. His two modes are fine and terrible. So what makes today fine and not terrible?
It's a regular day. Nothing has happened. So
Nothing has happened. Well, we do have some things that have happened. So we have some comments that we want to read from TikTok and from all the other socials. So let's pull that up real quick. Thank you, everyone who's been following us. You can follow us all over podcast land. You can follow us on YouTube as well. Just find Rabbi and Son or Darshan Yeshiva. Both will pretty much get you there. So let's see what we got here. Okay, Javon. So this is from, now let me pull it up. Okay. I don't know how to pronounce this person on TikTok. GESHBDN. Here's what I had to say. You ready?
Mm-hmm.
He's black.
Confetti. I mean, that's obvious.
I did comment and, shocking, huh? So we got that one. So, yeah, I guess, I don't know whether to thank him or...
I mean, what is there to thank? I mean, just like, he uses eyes.
Yeah, I don't know. Jessica Woodruff says, cats for the win. She was impressed that about the fact that you remembered the cats in the adoption book. That was like the one thing that you remember.
Oh, yeah. Because they were just, I don't know. I think it was the name Toes.
Yeah.
That stuck out.
Toes came and interrupted us. So, well, thank you, Jessica. Thank you for following us. Much appreciated. So the video about yarmulkes and blessings got something like 2,000 views. I think that's our biggest one. So the Kraken 528 says, I had a weird dream today, Rabbi. The ones that look 3D, the people seem to be real or known to you. I dreamt I converted to Judaism, but before my family had to be located. I don't know. Don't know. Which, do you ever have these dreams that feel so real that they're in 3D?
Yeah.
I was about to say, that's why I'm like every single night. This is something you and the Kraken 528 have in common. So what are your 3D dreams like? His are about converting to Judaism. How are yours?
It goes from like different topics. The last dream that I had, actually the house got broken into.
The house got broken into?
Yeah, the house got broken into and you got kidnapped.
I got kidnapped?
Yes.
You've never told me about a dream where you thought I was being kidnapped. So
yeah, because I didn't remember to bring it up, but I was going to tell you, but I don't remember. But yeah, it was like you got kidnapped and then we were looking for you. It was like the garage door was open.
Okay.
The car was gone. The doors were open and you were just gone.
Did you ever find me?
I think so, but I don't remember that part well. Because it was like in 3 parts.
It was in 3 parts?
Yeah, because I woke up, fell asleep, woke up. It was like a TV show, actually.
Okay. It was episodic.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I mean, I'm here, so I guess that's...
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. In response to the question about whether or not Jewish farmers can have pigs, these TikTok... Okay, people on TikTok, come up with names. These are just like random letters glued together. RESLPSA. I don't know. This person says can't touch pig.
Can't touch pig.
Can't touch pig.
That's not like...
That's just their response to this comment about whether or not Jewish farmers can have pigs, since that was something that mattered to you.
Well, as long as you don't eat them.
There is a question about whether you can touch non-kosher animals too, among some people. That's a level of traditionalism that I've never thought to really sort of, look into too much.
Well, like if you're like slaughtering meat, you wear protection anyway.
Oh,
so therefore, I'm still right.
I would one day love to be 19 again so that I can be right about everything.
Exactly. if you believe you're right and you're confident in it, no one tends to question you. But that's just life. Terrible, but... That's how it goes.
That should be the inspirational quote. You should just say that back at the end.
No, I think I got something better.
You got something better? Okay. Cassandra5516 on YouTube says, I'm so excited that you're back in the podcast world. I love all your older ones. Well, thank you, Cassandra. We appreciate you. Thank you for subscribing to the old ones, and thank you for subscribing to the new ones. That's pretty cool. And Cassandra, again, thank you, Cassandra, says, these are fantastic episodes, even though you have a topic guide, which we do. It's on the computer that I'm looking at right now. This is obviously a parent-child discussion, father teaching son and us, a natural discussion with a natural teacher. Javon seems like a nice young man. He is curious and thoughtful with his questions. Kudos to the rabbi and Rabbi Son, meaning mom and dad. Well, thank you, Cassandra.
Yeah. If you don't ask questions, you'll never get answers.
There you go. Yeah, so ask those questions. I get the comments. Comments are great. Ask questions. We will put them here in the show. We really love the opportunity to do stuff like that. All right, so now we'll move on to our next item. So, Javon, you and I like to talk about sort of pop cultural YouTube trends. And this is a trend that I've been looking into a little bit. These are Theobros. Are you familiar with this concept of Theobros?
Not at all.
Okay, so I'm not going to name names because I don't want to say anything offensive about anybody. That's Lashon Hara. That's evil tongue gossip. But Theobros is this genre of dude that's basically about my age, maybe 5 years younger, some of them. And it doesn't exist in like the Jewish world that I know of yet. But it's basically these guys who are really into like masculinity and the Bible and like traditionalism, and it kind of goes into like some of the trad wife stuff that we've talked about. They want to repeal, some of them want to repeal the 19th Amendment. So that's an issue.
The one that grants women the
right, women's suffrage. Yeah. So it's kind of an interesting thing. Have you noticed any of this sort of like move towards conservatism in religion stuff online at all? I know you're looking for more the political and social side. But
yeah, no, that's not mine.
Yeah, it's not coming in your feed.
No.
All right. Well, something that I'm curious about is this question of why is religious practice trending more conservative? Because I wrote an article about this years ago. It doesn't exist online anymore, but I wrote it for either My Jewish Learning or Caveller. I can't remember who hosted it. But I wrote a piece where it was called like the Rabbinical Students Job Interview or something like that. And I talked about how there's just this, at the time, and this was years and years and years ago, there was this whole thing about we want rabbis who are like cool, right? Like we want you to be like, really open-minded, and we want you to kind of like live a life like ours, and we want you to be into like the same music as us. It was this whole thing of like the anti like rabbi who's kind of like above all of us and is super like uptight and whatever, right? And so I wrote this article where I basically said, yeah, those people already exist and they're not getting employed. And it's not that they're not getting employed because everyone wants a very traditional rabbi. And I don't mean traditional like Orthodox or conservative, but I mean like this idea of like the stoic, aloof, person who stands on the bima, on the altar, and is, giving the sermons and then going off to their study. But like, there's this sort of lack of hiring of these sort of, stereotype them as cool rabbis. And it occurred to me that the reason why at the time was that asks something of people, right? If you can always say, well, I don't feel welcome, or I don't feel like the rabbi understands me enough, or, well, I'm looking for something that's more laid back, or whatever, it's a way of preventing yourself from ever having to participate, because then the community and the clergy are held to an impossible standard. So it's almost like the opposite of people who say like, no, that person's too liberal. That person's too like, they're too in the people. I don't know. But I wrote an article about this, and I, of course, got barbecued alive online because why would you ever say something nice on the internet unless you're Cassandra on YouTube? But, I've watched more and more people trending towards these like very traditional understandings of religion. What do you think that's about?
I don't know. I think some people are lost.
Yeah.
And they're just looking to follow someone or something, or have something that the world is constantly changing, and they want something that's firm, in place, unmovable.
Right.
They want that in their lives.
Right. And so traditionalism kind of seems to offer that in a way that progressive or liberal, or whatever word you want to use, open, doesn't seem to.
Yeah.
I think part of it too is like there's this, and I don't know about other religions, but I think sometimes there is this sense of, if I am practicing Judaism in a very traditional way, then that is what the religion is. And it forgets about the moral and ethical components, right? Because the ritual and the rules of lifestyle create that kind of box that people need, or that path, or whatever you want to call it. And I'm not dismissing that, because in this whole household we have that too. But I think that it's easy to then lose sort of the moral element, right? But on the flip side of the coin, this is what, Reform Judaism, 150 years ago was struggling with, was, well, if it's all just the moral stuff and we forget about the things that are, uniquely Jewish, right? Like lighting Shabbat candles, or, building the hut in our yard for Sukkot, right? Then you don't have that either. Like, you can just assimilate and just live, I guess, whatever you might think is a good life, but we're not always that good at judging whether our lives are good. So I don't know, but I think you might be onto something with, like, people want kind of defined, they want definitions and boundaries and stuff like that.
I mean, and then it takes away from them doing the brunt work, them actually having to go and, take separate from whatever religious organization they're a part of, takes away from them doing the work, them reading it, them forming their own understanding. I don't know, I was going to say something else, but I forgot.
Well, no, I think you're on the right track, because I will always say to people, if you come to one of my classes, or you're studying online with us or something like that at Darshan Yeshiva, and you say to me, like, look, I've looked at the text and I can show you that shrimp is kosher. I mean, that's such a stupid example. No one has ever, said that to me, but I'm trying to give the most glib example possible. If you can say that, if you can legitimately look at it and say shrimp is kosher, I will respect that opinion far more than, well, I'm just not going to do that, it's dumb. Right? Because you've taken the effort to look into something, because it's the question itself is meaningful, right? People who are like, well, I just follow it because that's what I was told. Yeah, you could have that on either side. You could have that on a very traditional side. You could have it on a very non-traditional side too. Like, why do you not do this? Oh, because the rabbi doesn't do it, right? Or why do you do that? Oh, because the rabbi told me I was supposed to. Or maybe the pastor or the imam or whatever.
I don't know. I feel like people should, yes, go to those services, but also they need to do the work. Because, like, why just listen to someone tell you what to do, tell you how to live your life?
Right.
And, like, some of those things don't work for some people.
Right.
And then, like, that's, the fun part about it. You can take it and you be like, well, no, I'm interpreting this way. That's the way you interpret it. That's the way I interpret it.
Right.
And then, like, what's the point of even going if it's like, just, I don't think there's, like, anything being brought. Like, you understand what I'm saying? Like, you're not really, nothing's being gained, because you're just like, oh, well, I just do this because of that. Okay. Oh, because they told me to.
Right.
Like, is that the only reason? Like, there has to be a bigger reason than, oh, they just told me to. I mean, if someone told you to like jump off a cliff, does that mean you jump off the cliff?
Right.
No, you don't jump off the cliff. You want to understand, why is it that you want to jump off that cliff?
What is the deeper meaning behind jumping off a cliff? What's the deeper meaning behind jumping off a cliff?
Yeah, but like, just it's like sheepish to just follow behind someone because they said something.
Right.
Like, you need to, I get that you want structure. You can have structure, and you can also still disagree with how some of those, structures are. And then, still is your life.
Right.
Bend it. Like, religion is all about bending and, understanding it in different ways. What?
I know the first thing I thought of when you said religion's about bending it, I'm like, yeah, bending my brain until it breaks.
I mean, that's how you know, but that's how you know people are engaged.
Right.
If no one's ever questioning you, if no one's ever saying, hey,
without a doubt,
what about this thing? What about this thing? What about that thing?
Right.
Couldn't you do this? Couldn't you not do that?
Right.
Like, it keeps you engaged. And then it creates a, more engaged environment.
Right.
And keeps the whole congregation engaged.
Right. That's absolutely true. Yeah. And one of the things I wish we would get is more questions to Darshan Yeshiva. You can go on the support line. You can ask questions. Either I'm answering them or another rabbi is answering them. So if you're looking at materials, don't follow us blindly. Look at the materials and ask us questions. No one ever asks questions.
Yeah, by us, he means, him and the other rabbis.
That's right. Yeah.
I wouldn't know anything.
You're learning.
I ask questions.
Hey, you know what? There you go, right? And kudos to you.
But I'm a questions asker.
You definitely are. So. You definitely are. All right. Well, now I'm ready to do a little bit of a rabbi's rant. So here's the thing, folks. Jewish world, we need to have a discussion. We don't talk about adoption enough. Okay. So there are nonprofits. They're very focused on questions of Jewish fertility. And I'm with that 100,000%. Have those conversations, offer that connection, offer that friendship, that community. People need that. Infertility is really hard. And couples, even if they know other couples who have gone through it, you still feel like you're alone. You're still dealing with family that wants to know, why haven't you had a baby yet? And stuff like that. But talk about adoption too. Because if I put in the word adoption into Instagram, what do you think comes up? It should super insult you. If I put the word adoption in hashtag adoption.
I don't know.
Adopting dogs.
Oh.
That's the main thing that comes up. Like if you do adoption day, it's someone at the pound.
Mm-hmm.
Really? Really? That's where we are now? When we think of adopting, the first thing we think of is a golden retriever and not a human being. Come on, this is nuts. So maybe we'll do a series of these Rabbi Rants. This is a Rabbi Rant. Jewish world, I am with you. Fertility, infertility, that type of counsel, that type of care, providing that community, providing those online resources. Oh my gosh, that matters so much. Let's talk about adoption. There's only 2 groups online that I can find that talk about it, okay? One doesn't even have a website. They send you a mailer. And then the other is not focused on adoption, right? It's involved in building some community around people who are somewhere in the adoption process, but it's not getting kids placed. Yes, I know that people are going to come at me and say, well, what about Jewish family services? So there's Jewish family services everywhere. Sure, wonderful. I'm with it. Hopefully they're helping with those home studies, providing that legal care, providing those licensed clinical social workers to help. But gosh, nobody talks about it. And honestly, going to go out on a limb here. If the numbers were that high, I think we would be talking about it. Right? I think if we were doing a good job about it, we would be talking about it. So, Rabbi Rant, we need to talk more about adoption. We need to focus on adoption. We need to make adoption something that is just as normal a conversation as talking about infertility. So, thank you for coming to my TED Talk. And now they're all going to come at me for being insensitive, but what can you do?
Insensitive about what?
I don't know. It's the internet, right? Hopefully Cassandra will help us out. She'll say some nice things.
I don't know why that would be insensitive or people would be insulted by it.
Well, it's so hard online, right? If you say, I like cats, immediately some troll is going to say, oh, so you want all dogs dead and in a ditch? And it's no, like I said, I like cats. Oh, so you worship cats? So you don't even believe in God anymore?
You should be absolutely. You're right. You're right. Sometimes you don't have to feed into it. You should be like, absolutely, you're right. You're so right. You peg me down. You're completely right. It's just, I don't know. People, the internet is interesting.
Yeah, the internet is interesting, and the internet could talk more about adoption, Jewish adoption. We got to make this more of a conversation. Okay, but now it's time for the next conversation, which we had a few nights ago in the Tiki room, which is what we call the Florida room in the back of our house. We were quizzing you on Jewish holidays. So let's do this. So I'm going to give you the name of a holiday. I want to see how well I've done, because you've had several rounds now of Jewish holidays. I want to see if you can. I'll give you the name of the holiday. I want you to give me one aspect of it.
Okay.
Just that's it. Bare minimum, okay? All right, here we go. Hanukkah.
7 days or 7 days. And then it's about how long the oil lasted.
So 8 nights, yeah. Okay, so you
same tip.
What was the oil lasting thing about them? What's the bigger story there? What was the historical moment?
Don't recall.
Okay, all right, great. So failed you on Hanukkah. Okay.
No, you didn't. I remember the 8 nights in the oil. That's like the big parts.
Spoken like every Jewish kid, right?
Big parts.
The big parts. Okay. Purim.
That's the costume one.
That's the costume one. Okay. And what's the story?
I don't know. I just remember the costumes.
You just remember the costumes. Okay. Wow. Dang. Spoken like a clergy kid. Okay. All right. Rosh Hashanah.
Is that the one with the apples and the honey?
Yes. That's the apples and honey. What is it about? Oh God!
I don't know.
Wow, man! Some kind of Jewish educator I am. It's Jewish New Year. Okay, Yom Kippur.
I thought that was the New Year.
So it happens immediately after the New Year. Rosh Hashanah is literally the head of the year. It's the New Year.
Oh,
so immediately after that is Yom Kippur. Before the Hut holiday.
Yeah, but you said all Jewish people don't do the thing I remember about it.
Okay, well, what's the thing that you remember about
the whole, like, write down what you said and, repent, basically.
Well, so our custom of, like, writing it down, that's a unique thing. That's not a thing that everybody does. But, yeah, you're right. It's about your sins and atonement.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, okay, so we're getting there. Okay, I just gave it away, but Sukkot.
Yeah, I know it's the Hut.
It's the Hut, okay? And it's about...
I don't know.
Wow, okay, man.
I just remember the big things.
You just remember the big things, okay? Okay, got it. Pesach, Passover.
Oh, that's the whole... You do, like, a little feast. You get the little plate that's filled with all the, objects. And then you, how the Jews left Egypt.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. And I remember that one.
And you remember that one. Okay. So slavery you can remember, but the other holidays, yeah.
Yeah, slavery's like a big thing.
There you go. Clock it. Slavery's like a big thing.
Yeah.
Okay, wonderful. That'll get us some interesting attention online. Okay, got it. Okay, cool. So now we'll go into the, like, obscure stuff. Tu B'Shvat.
What time of year is it?
It's basically in the winter, like right before spring, right before like Purim and Passover and all that.
It's like a major holiday?
No, it's a minor holiday.
Like, no, I don't know.
It's the birthday of the trees. It's when we have the Tu B'Shvat Seder, where we eat, like, all of the dried fruits and nuts and all of that stuff. You've never come to that one. So
yeah.
You've skipped that one. Okay. Holiday that we're not really into, but Tu B'Av.
Oh, that's that Valentine's Day one?
What's up? Like, the one that, like...
No, because somebody had talked about it in class, and then he had said something about it. And
who was talking to you about Tu B'Av in class?
Remember when I was doing a religion class?
Yeah.
And then I had brought it up, and somebody talked about it, and that's the only one I remember it.
Wow.
Because you talked about it.
Oh, okay. So if you want your kids to learn about Judaism, make sure they're going to college and taking a religion class. So it's like a double.
Yeah, then I mean I'm surprised I remember the name. But yeah.
Yeah, okay. Well, there you have it, folks. So he got Passover.
Yeah. Two out of,
and got two B'Av out of quite a few.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, right now we're in the as of this recording, we're in the month of Cheshvan, and in Cheshvan there are no Jewish holidays. So yeah, not much to offer right now.
Yeah. Peaceful times.
Not a lot of people coming in and out of your house.
Exactly.
All righty. Well, Javon, I'm glad that you got 2 out of however many I just listed. So okay.
I don't know. I want to say 9, but I'm pretty sure it's not 9.
Yeah. There's a holiday every month, so.
Oh.
Except for in Cheshvan. That's the only time there isn't one. So, talking more about Theobros, you have some comments.
Yeah, because I don't know if we got into it the first time. But I don't know. I think the whole concept is really, I'm going to say stupid. Really stupid. Because you are 35, 40, sitting on a podcast worrying about masculinity in religion. It's like kind of weird to worry about that. Like I just find like the whole concept to be weird, because like men who are masculine don't sit on the internet talking about how masculine they are. I've never gotten that. Like if you have to say I'm so macho and then this, you have some insecurity somewhere, and that no one's taking you seriously. If you have a commanding presence, that speaks for you. You don't have to speak it. You don't have to bring it to an existence. And like as for the group of people that are pushing for the end of the 19th Amendment, or to push women back, I mean, why not hold yourself to those same standards that you want to hold women to?
Like what? What kind of standards?
For like Judaism. Like I know some Jewish people, they cover their hair. Like some women cover their hair.
Yeah.
Men should cover their hair. I'm talking cover.
Oh, really?
I'm talking hood.
Really?
I'm talking cover.
Really?
Yes.
Like some Benedictine monk type stuff.
Exactly.
Like, for example, like your head covering. You got your Sherpa outfit because it's cold outside.
Yes. I'm talking cover your hair. Do everything women do.
Okay.
Because why are you, if you're on the same plane and you're level, the ground is level, right? You're standing on your 2 feet, same thing. You're both practicing the religion. Why is it that women tend to fall under more scrutiny and must do things to seem better or holier? Like if women were actually holier and were seen in that role, then you wouldn't try to do those things that women are doing. If women are inherently like holier, then why do they have to cover their hair? Why can't they be seen? Like, isn't that the whole point? You see women who are following these values, and then you should be the one, as the man, to be like, oh, that's what women are doing. Like, oh, let me do that, and let me see if I'm closer to God.
Interesting.
Instead, it's just like, oh yeah, you don't show your hair and you don't do this, that, and the third, but I'm a man, so I'm gonna do not that and opposite. But somehow we're still equally on the same footing in this religious space.
Yeah, I mean, this is the difference in terms of more traditional religion, where it looks at gender definition as being a much more concrete thing. Whereas and people will make this about like trans and all of that. And that's not what it is. It's just that when you look at traditional religion, the definitions and the boundaries of biological sexes are a lot more firm than as you get into more progressive religion, right? So this is things like, the ordination of women as rabbis and as teachers, the creation of the bat mitzvah, so the girls' sort of coming of age, life cycle ceremony, having women read from the Torah, which is something
why did that even have to be a conversation that young girls should be coming into that next stage in their life? Why is it that young boys already had that? Like, you're both making this transition into this different stage. Like, you shouldn't have to fight for basic things like that. I found that ridiculous.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting how it's changed over time too, because it used to be back in the day that a bat mitzvah was like this very liberal thing, and like, oh wow, how wild and all of that. And then in more traditional circles, you started having something called an Eshet Chayil, which means woman of valor. It's one of the songs on Shabbat. You started having these like Eshet or Eshes Chayil ceremonies. And so it was sort of like, well, we can't have a girl on the bima to read from the Torah, but she could like stand in the women's side of the synagogue, and she can like read particular prayers.
Why are there sides?
Or read sections from the Bible.
Why are there sides? If she's practicing the religion, why should she not be allowed to read from the Torah? That literally makes no sense.
Yeah, I mean, in traditional Judaism, the idea was that the men read from the Torah. Men had a much more defined religious life in terms of ceremony that was outside of the home, whereas in the home, women were the ones running the religious show. So the women are responsible in traditional religion, not just Judaism, for managing the home and managing religious education in the home, whereas men tend to be more sort of public in terms of religious practice, being pastors, imams, rabbis, things like that. So that if you take all like conservative religion, and I don't mean like the conservative movement of Judaism, I just mean traditional religion worldwide, pretty much seems to be about women being the religious authorities in private space and men being religious authority in public space.
That still doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, you're doing the exact same thing.
So what you want is an egalitarian system where everybody kind of is in, there's no like spheres of influence. It's all kind of one sphere that everybody is in.
Yeah, because like, are you assuming like just because you're a man that someone's going to listen to you? Like, I just find that weird in all instances. And then, it's like, the women run the home. They, teach the kids. I thought they're teaching the kids. Why can't they teach everyone else? Exactly.
Teach the men.
So it's like, you don't really value women when you're putting yourself here and you're putting them here. When they both need to be here. Both practicing the same thing. Both want to live the same, lives and have these same values. It needs to be here. Not one person gets to do such, and such, and, the other such, and such. Equal.
Yeah, I mean, this is the difference between progressive religion and traditional religion. Traditional religion would say, okay, we're all about sort of egalitarianism when it comes to career and all of these other things that aren't in the zone of the religion, right? It's making money and friends and all, just kind of life stuff, right? It's fully egalitarian there. But in this one particular zone, which is religious, we'll call it like a ritual, I guess, that's where the mitzvahs are defined between men and women. I don't know about like in other religions how they think of it, but that's kind of the thing. But then going back to the thing about why is more traditional religion and these Theobros and all of that, why is that a thing? My question to you would be, have we had egalitarianism for so long now in liberal religion, which makes up more of what Jews practice, that now people are actually kind of rejecting that in some way? Like, basically, if you're going to rebel, you rebel against the thing that's normative. If the normative thing is liberal religion, then what you rebel against is that, and you become more traditional. So that's what I'm wondering. I don't know if that makes sense or not.
No, it makes sense, but I wouldn't.
You wouldn't do it yourself.
No, because it's like, why want to, like, it's like, why want to put yourself in a box? Like, in such like a rigid place where you have no movement. There is no wiggle room. There is just plain in writing. And people need to take account, because I don't think religion should just be like this, like, how it was written is how it should be practiced.
Right.
Because things were written in a certain time, where now certain things don't even make sense. Like logically.
Right.
Makes sense.
Right.
Yeah. No, I don't know. I think people I think people are thinking the world is changing so much when it's really not. I think the media over reports things that are really, really, really small,
right,
within the population of like
millions and millions, of just
hundreds of millions of people,
Joes and Janes.
Yeah, like so when something's in the news often, do you think it's more common,
right,
than it actually is when that's not the case, numbers wise?
So I regret you are very good about like keeping copies of like different quotes that you find interesting. I heard a quote from an executive, a former executive at X, now Twitter, or Twitter, now X. And she said something like, I'm going to get it wrong, but it was something like, algorithms shape our universe of perception. And so I think you're saying it, as she did, right? Of like, if you go online and you see things and you see images and media and whatever, and if those organizations are making a lot of money off of that, then yeah, you're going to think the world looks a certain way. And then it gives license for these like Theobro type guys to be like, oh, well, now I can make money off that.
Yeah, right? It's like to speak to more of that crowd that's like thinking that thing, but they can't say it in public. But they're like, oh yeah, let me subscribe to the little Theobros. And it's like, honestly, like if you are taking time out to, I don't know, because I don't know about this topic that much. Right. But read the religion, you should take time to think as well. Right. Like just because you read something doesn't mean you thought about it. Right. And in order for you to think about it, you need to have a conversation about it. In order for you to have a conversation about it, you need to have someone opposite of you in order to challenge that, in order to, why do I think the way I think? And if your mind changed or it doesn't, then you know why your mind changed or it didn't. Right.
This is why in the yeshiva system, you have partnered learning. So you go to a yeshiva, you sit down, they give you volumes of Talmud like we have up there, and you just sit face to face. They even have these little stands where basically like both of the books are leaning against each other, and you just go through line by line and you argue it back and forth. And the idea is that learning by yourself can sometimes make you believe things that aren't true. And so you need to have that other person whose job it is to challenge you, and to help you to stay kind of on course a little bit.
Yeah, because these people aren't challenged. They're in a bubble. Right. They're in the same place where people are in the comments saying, yeah, bro, I say the same thing. Like, yeah. And then it's just like, you're just in this chamber, this echo chamber, people just telling you, yeah, you're right, you're right, you're right. And then when you go outside and take that ideology outside, it's like people are like, what did you just say? Right. And then you're like, you feel like you're a weirdo and like people are going against you when it's like, no, you're not a weirdo. It's just you've been not having a second, third perspective. Right. And then you just went with it because you were uncomfortable going into spaces where your ideas were challenged.
Okay, interesting. Huh, yeah. Theobros. What can you do?
Yeah.
Well, Javon, it's been a blast as always. Have you got a quote for us?
I think I'm going to do off a quote I've been thinking about.
Okay.
And it pertains to relationships, like really in any regard. Okay. But I think you should be willing to burn a bridge while standing on it. I
know. You should be willing to burn a bridge while standing on it.
To burn a bridge while standing on it. And I know that's like a scary thing for some people, and to be like, wow, like my whole world is like feet off the ground sinking. And then it's like, sometimes you gotta just be like, hey, I have to do this for me. And it's clear at some point that we're not gonna agree, and we're not gonna be able to overcome this thing. And like sometimes you think, yeah, this person's not good for me, and I have to move on. So you have to burn that bridge, and the water at the bottom of the chasm. It may feel cold, it may feel isolating, but keep sailing. You'll be somewhere better.
Yeah, I mean, I'm someone who really believes that the sort of, when you're dealing with people, you should be, both hopeful and realistic at the same time. Realistic in the sense that if it's an unhealthy situation, if it's a person who, seeks to cause you harm, someone who is, Machiavellian, one-sided, things like that, okay, then there is no reasoning with that. And one of my favorite lines from when I was in college was a religion professor saying you can't rationalize with irrational people, right? So that's when you close the door. But when there's some hope for reconciliation, I think if you can leave the door cracked a little, right? It's closed, but it's cracked a little. But then you're right. Like if it's a person who just wants to destroy everything and they, whatever, then unfortunately, you do have to permanently say, I can't do that.
Yeah, and I know people will feel like, I don't want to do that. That's a very scary thing. Yeah, and people don't want to be alone. But sometimes you're going to have to walk this world alone and find people who are better for you.
Bingo. And that's when you're not walking alone. Exactly. If you have other people around you, then it makes kind of closing the door on some of those other relationships a lot easier.
Exactly.
Yeah, so you're right about that. Okay, very cool. Thank you for the inspiration.
Yeah.
Rabbi and Son, what can I say? You should stand on the bridge while it burns.
Sometimes bridges have to burn.
Yeah.
Relationships have to go, and you'll be all the better for it.
There you go. Thanks a lot, everybody.
Yeah.
Thank you to our sponsors at Darshan Yeshiva for making this content possible. Darshan Yeshiva provides beginner-level online Jewish learning, including the very popular Conversion to Judaism program, with sponsoring rabbis and students all over the world. Start your Jewish journey any place, anywhere, and anytime with our conservative, reform, reconstructionist, Jewish renewal, humanistic, and post-denominational rabbi mentors. Become the Jew you always wanted to be with Darshan Yeshiva.